Charles Bronson.
I'm Jill Ireland.
Some of what you're about to see won't be easy to take. It's true and it's raw.
Some of what you're about to see will make you glad to be alive. And that's why we want to show it to you.
To me, it's like an evil place. I hate it for almost taking my life. You know, if there was something I could do to rid us of this mountain, I'd do it. Because personally, I hate it. But now when I look around, I'm nervous. I want to go back home. I want to stay away. I've seen it now, and I'm satisfied.
Every place you look up and down the highways, mister, it's just a gravel bed. All of the damn gravel from the damnable dam.
I was at Lakehurst, New Jersey, May 6, 1937, as a reporter, waiting the arrival of the Hindenburg.
I was a passenger on the Hindenburg.
Charlie, get this, Charlie. It's tragic, terrible. Oh, my, get out of the way, please. It's burning, bursting into flames, and it's falling on the mooring beds, and all the folks agree that this is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's like 20, 4 or 5.
And I told the people to just go walk straight out of the hall, out into the garden area, out of the building. And I didn't tell them why, because I didn't want them to know there was a fire, so they wouldn't panic.
From the beginning of time, man has been the victim of catastrophic disasters. Some natural in origin, some man-made, and they are tragedies that test the human spirit.
What is it like to live through such experiences? What can we learn from the tragic misfortunes of others?
You will discover that it can happen anytime, to anyone, anywhere, and that no one is immune, and that there is really no safe place.
Of all natural disasters, the eruption of a volcano holds the most fascination.
March 1980, Mount St. Helens blows. Ash covers the area, but in historical terms, it's a minor eruption. Now, that doesn't lessen the excitement. Geologists flock to observe the rumbling summit. Of particular interest is the growing bulge on the mountain's flank. Authorities set up roadblocks and urge residents and vacationers to leave the area. Scientists warn that the ominous bulge building up from the pressure of gases inside could blow at any time. Fortunately, it's still early in the season at Spirit Lake, but one permanent resident, 84-year-old Harry Truman, refuses to budge.
People used to ask me why the hell I stay there and what I'm doing up there. That's my life. Spirit Lake and Mount St. Helens is my life, folks. I've lived there 50 years. It's a part of me. That mountain and that lake is a part of Truman, and I'm a part of it.
He wrote his own epitaph. The mountain buried Harry 1 month later. Sunday morning, May 18th. A colossal volcanic eruption shatters Mount St. Helens. This is a time-lapse film of that single burst. It rips off 1,300 feet of the mountain and transforms the beautiful cone into an ugly, gaping hole. 1 cubic mile of the mountain is hurled into the air. Another time-lapse sequence, taken from a further distance, shows the gigantic mushroom cloud that eventually spews dust and ash 12 miles into the sky. The force is equivalent to 10 million tons of TNT. pyroclastic wave formed of melted snow, ash, and pumice, riding a superheated cushion of gas, moves down the mountain, devastating the once beautiful slopes, wiping out forests, shifting boulders, and gouging channels in the still trembling earth. Stragglers flee the rampaging mud and choking ash.
It is ominous, and it's right there, and we came to a screeching halt, turned the Jeep around, and we drove away at like 85 miles an hour with this gaseous ball just almost engulfing us. Couldn't smell it, couldn't hear it, could see it.
Other campers are caught. One young couple, Venus Durgan and Roald Wrighton, were on the Toutle River, 23 miles downstream from Spirit Lake.
We started gathering up our things, and we looked upriver and saw a wooden train trestle come floating around the bend of the river. And we realized then that, you know, this is not right and we shouldn't be here. After the trestle went by, it was holding back mainly really large logs and the mud flow and things like that, and it just raised rapidly, very rapidly. Then we jumped on top of the car. It floated up and just floated right over to the edge of the riverbed there. It had already etched a good 8-foot drop-off right there where the stuff had been swooshing by. The car went in and we went in. I was lucky enough to land on a log large enough to support me, and she went in between one. There was hardly any room. The logs were just bank to bank, constantly getting larger and constantly just spreading out, just knocking the trees down on either side. At this point, I was on a log, actually like you ride a horse. I was straddling the log. Two came up and pinned both my legs, so I had no movement at all. I couldn't move up or down. I was just trapped. I couldn't see Venus at that point anymore. I thought she was gone. I saw her shoes floating on top of the mud, and I just prayed to the Lord to open the logs or make it quick, you know, so it wouldn't hurt like it is now, the final, you know. If it was going to kill me, I didn't want it to hurt. So after I was just screaming, I just yelled, "Give me a break," I think, something like that. And the logs opened up. And I pushed myself up onto the log, scrambled on my knees to the end of it, and there's Venus's head just stuck between two large logs, and she's looking right up at me. And they moved. One went this way and one went right and left, and it just peeled the skin off her face and her neck.
I knew at that point that I was going to die, and the only thing I thought about was my family and my friends, because our family and our friends didn't know where we were at. And all I could think of was that they'd never find us, and we'd be gone, and our parents and friends would not know what happened to us.
And still the mountain is not quiet. The Air Force and Army National Guard intensify rescue operations. They managed to find 197 survivors. Hank Rasmussen is picked up miles from home, but goes back to save another survivor. His dog, Festus. Festus will be one of the last of the survivors to get off the mountain alive.
One who almost didn't make it is television cameraman Dave Crockett. Assigned to film the eruption, he finds himself in the middle of it. Almost overcome by poisonous gases, he crawls on the ledge where 6 hours later the last chopper finds him. So heavy is the ash fallout that the slopes of Mount St. Helens turns a uniform gray, making this color film look black and white. 31 are known dead, 68 are missing. Damage estimates run as high as $2 billion. Thousands of acres of timber are gone. Nearly all life is wiped out within a 15-mile radius.
Venus and Roald recently returned to the river, and we went with them.
To me, it's like an evil place. I hate it for almost taking my life. You know, if there was something I could do to rid us of this mountain, I'd do it. Because personally, I hate it. But now when I look around, I'm nervous. I want to go back home. I want to stay away. I've seen it now, and I'm satisfied.
Let's go look at the car.
Oh my God, look at your car. That's all it's left.
Where's the rest of it? The only recognizable piece that came off my car that I could tell was my car was the license plate. I didn't have the best car in the world, you know. It's the same dents that were on it. The only thing that's different about it is there's some mud and ash on it, and the tags are still good for another month.
It's a great souvenir.
Yeah, really.
You think you'd be able to go camping again by the river and sleep?
I'm not scared to go camping again. I think it was just like a freak thing. We happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I don't think it could ever happen to us again, but, you know, it really makes you think about life.
Among the most terrible of catastrophes are those that catch us off guard while relaxed, enjoying ourselves.
The Beverly Hills Supper Club is the showplace of the nation.
The Beverly Hills Supper Club in Southgate, Kentucky, is one of the biggest in the Midwest. A showplace lavishly decorated and heavily promoted.
Only 8 minutes from downtown Cincinnati. Dance to the music of Bill Lane's Beverly Hills Orchestra.
On May 28, 1977, 2,600 patrons fill the sprawling structure. The big cabaret room is packed for headliner John Davidson. Minutes before the show, fire turns the gala evening into the worst nightclub tragedy since the Boston Coconut Grove fire of 1942. At 8:45, employees notice smoke along the walls of the empty Zebra room. They try spraying it with fire extinguishers, unaware that the fire has already spread between the false ceiling and the roof. It's 15 minutes before anyone calls the fire department. By then, flames have coursed through ducts and ventilators. By the time firemen arrive, it's too late. The building is an inferno.
The place is fully engulfed. The firemen say there's just no question about it. There is no way to control it at this time. It's just all over the building. Having been inside when the announcement was made, there was really no idea how serious the fire was, and consequently most people were filing out slowly, which was good because probably more people would have died had they known that the fire was as severe as it is.
I was sitting very close to the door, within 15, 20 feet of the exit, and was out within 30 seconds. I hadn't been out more than a minute and a half when the flames broke out the door that I came out of and cut off people still trying to get out the door.
164 people die in the blaze. Most of them suffocated by the smoke or poisoned by gases generated by the burning plastic decor. Over the years, the club had been added to, closing exits and creating a labyrinth of corridors that often lead only to other burning rooms. So quickly does the fire grow that some people are found in the cabaret room still at their tables. Many more might have died were it not for the quick thinking of an 18-year-old busboy, Walter Bailey. Walter, how did you find out about the fire?
I was just outside the cabaret room, and a waitress ran up to me and told me that the Zebra room was on fire. So I just walked up to the stage, and then I turned to the audience and pointed out one of the exit signs in the back of the room. And I told them that there was no reason to panic and that there was a small fire in the front of the building and that they should not go towards the front.
How did the audience react to your announcement?
Well, as I was leaving the stage, some of the people were just sitting there and looking at me with disbelief. For a while, a lot of people did think that I was part of the comedy routine, that any minute there was going to be a punchline.
Many of the deaths occurred because of panic. When did the panic set in?
Well, as I left the room, I started to leave, and one of the 3 of the doors that some of the people were exiting from was locked, and I tried to open it, and I couldn't get it open, so I returned back to the zebra room to see if the fire had went out, so I could, so we could start seating the people again. And as I started towards the zebra room, I got about halfway up the hallway, and this big cloud of smoke just came around the corner, heading towards me very quick, very fast. And so I went on my way out. I got in line with the rest of the people, and one man had turned around and saw the cloud of smoke coming towards him, and he just yelled, "This place is on fire, everybody get out." And then there was just a big rush to get out the door. Everyone was panicking. After a while, I realized that a lot of the reasons that people got stuck at the one exit is because the exit was made wrong for an exit, and that one of the persons had got stuck in the exit because one of the doors had been forced shut, which blocked the exit, and everybody tripped over that person, and they've all just piled up there, and nobody could get out.
You were able to help rescue some of the people from the cabaret room. How did you do that?
I was standing in the garden area, and there was a man helping pull people out and showing them how to get out. And he asked me to help him, and I ran in with him. And the smoke was real thick. I couldn't see anything, and there was a lot of people in there, in the room, stuck in there. And we started grabbing people and pulling them out. And they were, some of them were unconscious.
Well, what were your personal feelings about being such an important part of this tragedy?
I was worried that maybe I hadn't done it right. I kept worrying about the deaths of the people. But with the responsibility of clearing the room, I had saved a lot of people, but then I had that responsibility of all the people that died, and I kept wondering over and over if there was another way I could have done it, a better way to do it, where I could have saved everyone.
3 temporary morgues are set up in a nearby school, an armory, and a veterans hall. Here, those who had gathered the night before to attend a wedding, a bar mitzvah party, or just to have a good time, now come to identify the barely recognizable remains of those they loved. There's no way to soften the shock. Since that date, Kentucky's building and fire codes have been tightened and strengthened. But one fire marshal warns, there are clubs like this all over the United States, ready to go.
I was at Lakehurst, New Jersey, May 6, 1937, as a reporter, waiting the arrival of the Hindenburg.
I was a passenger on the Hindenburg.
His name is Ben Dover. He is a professional daredevil. Like all professionals, he makes his act look more dangerous than it is. Actually, he is a superb athlete, highly skilled. So popular is his act that he spends half his time touring the world.
His real name is Joseph Sparr. In 1937, he'd finished a performance in Germany. He decided to come home to the United States, and he booked passage on what would become the last flight of the Hindenburg. Wasn't that traveling by Zeppelin a daring way to cross the Atlantic?
I wasn't scared about it, although I was aware that in America 3 big Zeppelins had crashed, But I knew the Germans were very thorough, and special where the hydrogen gas was there being used at that time to lift the Zeppelin. I was also aware of that, but I knew the Germans were very thorough, and they were.
Yes.
When we came on board, all matches and fire lighters, cigarette lighters were taken away from us. But I needed to have transportation to get back to New York immediately. In April, I was in Munich in a theater, and my next engagement was at the 12th of May at the Radio City Music Hall in New York. And there were no boats that could take me back in time. And I had cabled management of the music hall that I could not make it. And they cabled me back and said, spare no expenses. And I never thought that I would be the kind of a man that lay out that kind of money.
How much was the fare?
$400. It was a lot of money that time.
Mr. Spa, what was life like aboard the Hindenburg?
In Frankfurt, when I came to the field, they had this monster out there. It was like laying on the ground. And when I saw the length of it and the size of it, it's not that I was afraid. It frightened me. Something big. It's like the Empire State Building laying flat down.
It's a magnificent achievement, but one concern is that its lift is provided by highly flammable hydrogen, since the United States will not sell helium to Nazi Germany.
The accommodations were absolutely different than on airplanes. It's not like airplanes. First of all, I had a cabin for myself. I had a cabin with 2 beds, hot and cold water. Then I had a big, huge dining room. Then, of course, you could walk along the side and the passenger section. They had big windows where you could look out. And then you could cross over, and it was on a boat, like they say, you're up on deck. You could walk around. There was lots of room to walk around. I think the second day, we had to go too far north on account of the headwinds. And the first thing we saw in the distance were like white things showing up. And there were huge icebergs. And there was one spot in a Zeppelin where there were big windows. You could look straight down. So with my film camera, I was filming these icebergs, and the sun had made a shadow of the Hindenburg as it was gliding along the ocean, and it was going straight for one of the big icebergs, the shadow. And I remember at that time thinking of the Titanic. He says, isn't it odd? Here we are, 5,000 feet up, and there's the shadow just like crashing into it. And it just became disfigured from the shape of the iceberg, and there were about a dozen or more. Those films were taken by me, and they were the best picture I had taken of the whole thing.
After 3 days, the Hindenburg nears its destination. In New York, heavy storm clouds have been building. The Hindenburg must delay its landing. After 3 hours, conditions have improved. A few minutes past 7 in the evening, the Hindenburg prepares to land at Lakehurst, New Jersey. In addition to Mr. Spa's wife, waiting on the field was a man whom disaster would make a lifelong friend. At the time, he was a Chicago radio announcer. Herb Morrison. How did you happen to be in Lakehurst, New Jersey for the landing of the Hindenburg?
I'd been in radio 7 years before this happened, and I figured, well, maybe I could take recording equipment down. In a long time, I'd been pushing for taking a recording to the site of an event, you know, and maybe getting the record and take it back to the studio, avoiding all the telephone lines and necessary preparations way in advance, you know. I was out on a little patio right outside this office they had given us. And I started talking and saying,
well, here it comes, ladies and gentlemen, and what a great sight it is. A thrilling one. It's a marvelous sight. It's coming down out of the sky, pointed directly towards us and toward the mooring mast. The mighty diesel motors just roared, their propellers biting into the air and throwing it back into a gale-like whirlpool. No wonder this great floating palace can travel through the air at such a speed with these powerful motors behind it. Now, a field that we thought active when we first arrived has turned into a moving mass of cooperative action. The landing crews have rushed to the post, and orders are being passed along, and last-minute preparations are being completed for the moment we have waited for so long. The ship is riding majestically toward us like some great feather, riding as though it was mighty proud of the place it's playing in the world's aviation.
Now remember, I was trying to see my wife and children. There were people below waving up to us, and I thought with what I could see, it was my wife and children, and I put the camera against my eye and tried to take a picture of it.
the passenger probably lining the windows looking down at the field ahead of them, getting their glimpse of the mooring mast. It's practically standing still now. They've dropped ropes out of the nose of the ship. It's been taken a hold of down on the field by a number of men. It's starting to rain again. The rain had slacked up a little bit. The back motors of the ship are just holding it. It burst into flames. Wait, get it started, get it started. It's crashing, and it's crashing. It's crashing terrible. Oh my, get out of the way, please. It's burning, bursting into flames, and it's falling on the mooring mast, and all the folks agree that this is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's like 400 or 500 feet into the sky. It's a terrific crash, ladies and gentlemen. The smoke and the flames now, and the flame is crashing to the ground, not quite to the mooring mast. All the humanity and all the passengers screaming around it. I told you, I never talk to people whose friends are on there. I can't talk, ladies and gentlemen. Honest, it's just like they're massive smoking wreckage. And everybody can hardly breathe and talk and screaming. Lady, I'm sorry. Honestly, I can hardly breathe. I'm going to step inside where I cannot see it. Charlie, that's terrible.
When there was suddenly a muffled roar, everybody startled. Soon after this came a second explosion. My first thought was out. People began to scream and holler, and the furniture started to slide in a heap. I took the camera and hit this plastic window. We started to climb out. I knew that I was hanging outside the Zeppelin. I did not know how long I could hold on. My instinct told me this was the right time, and I let go. My left leg caved in as I hit the ground. I was trying to crawl away, and then I saw this big man. He came running toward me, picked me up, dragged me clear, ran with me, and then threw me down on the ground. I saw burned passengers running around blindly with everything burned off their body, just like they were roasted. I saw them still running. I saw 2 landing crew members trying to hold on to them. And then I saw some other passengers come limping on, badly burned.
I raced down to the burning ship, and just as I walked up to the ship, climbed over the picket line, I met a man coming out, dazed. He couldn't find his way. I grabbed a hold of him. Mr. Say, it sounds like Say, we're not sure of it. And he told me he jumped. He jumped with other passengers.
They started jumping. And Joe said he hit the window, but you know, this fact that it exploded, and I said it's burst into flames, and from the time I said it's burst into flames, it was burned in 34 seconds. There was a lot of people, you know how they do when around a broadcast, the announcer's talking, and they want to hear what he's saying. So a lot of them came up, and there was an elderly lady, and here's something a lot of people don't know. She was standing on the side of me, and she had about 75 and 80, something like that, and she was waiting, I'm sure, for her husband. And she was standing on the left of me, and I always hold my microphone on the left hand in the broadcast, and I had a hat that came, and I was kind of tilted over, but I was watching the fire and talking. I saw her start to faint, so I switched mic hands really, and I caught her around the waist. And she's dead fainted right in my arms, see? And I said, oh, I'm sorry, lady, and when I kept on describing it.
I can't talk, ladies and gentlemen. Honest, it's just like they're massive smoking wreckage. And everybody can hardly breathe and talk and screaming. Lady, I'm sorry.
Of the 97 people aboard, 37 died, along with 1 member of the ground crew. Some blame lightning, some static electricity, some sabotage. The death of the Hindenburg is still a matter of conjecture, but to this day there has never been another commercial dirigible. Mr. P.F. Pingree is a spokesman for the Research and Development Division of the Goodyear Tire Company engaged in lighter-than-air craft research. In all of the years since the Hindenburg disaster, why hasn't there been any renewed interest in airship travel?
Perhaps not so much from a travel standpoint, because airships are very slow-moving, and it seems that over the years we've changed our attitude somewhat. It appears that the public would rather get where they're going and enjoy that rather than spend a great deal of time getting there. But going to a military and industrial application of airships, there's a tremendous future ahead. This model here, for example, represents what we believe the future airship configuration will be. This is called a heavy lifter, and essentially what it is a gigantic helicopter. The envelope is filled with helium gas, which can in effect lift the weight of the 4 helicopters with some assistance from the helicopters. And the 4 helicopters mounted on outriggers around the ship can carry a payload of up to 175 tons.
Is there a future in lighter-than-air travel?
I believe that people are much more interested in getting to their destination and enjoying that. So I don't think we'll ever again see the great ships such as the Hindenburg flying for luxury passenger travel again.
The new Teton Dam, long awaited by Idaho farmers, is a technical marvel. Constructed out of sand and gravel, it stands taller than a 30-story building and diverts the powerful Teton River into a 17-mile-long reservoir.
On June 5th, 1976, 2 major leaks are discovered in the canyon wall. Emergency repairs are underway when the cracks suddenly widen, fill with water, and swallow the repairmen's bulldozers. Seconds later, the north face of the dam caves in. Fishing on the river are 2 young men, David Benson and Darrell Grigg.
It was pretty good fishing that morning. And all of a sudden the water rose about 5 or 6 feet and heard a kind of a roar or something. I looked up the canyon and seen about a 30 or 40 foot wall of water coming at me. Well, I turned to David and yelled at him and told him to jump. So I tried to outswim it, but and I swam probably maybe 10 or 8 yards or so, and I got caught up in the water and logs. And then I was on top. I was trying to climb to shore almost the whole time when I could. And I remember I was looking up in the air and there was an airplane up there and I was waving my arms. And I didn't know what was going on. Nobody warned us or anything what was going on. I remember I was looking up towards Wilford, and all I could see was just water everywhere.
The dam's gone.
The whole thing has gone now?
The whole thing is gone. It rolled over about 5 minutes ago.
Where do you want the people evacuated?
Well, we would like to get them off the river in low-lying spots.
The water's leading edge is a monster wall, 100 feet high, surging at 40 miles an hour towards the towns of the Snake River Valley.
It's just hard to describe a sight like that. It's just something that you have to see to believe. I commandeered a helicopter because I was outside my county and flew to my home, which sits down next to the Buttes, which is south of town. The amount of debris, the homes that the water picked up and moved was just amazing. And in that process, witnessed hundreds of cattle swimming in the water, trying to reach some kind of high ground. The homes were floating, just absolutely destroyed.
Floodwaters sweep over the towns of Wilford, Sugar City, Rexburg, Firth, Shelley, Idaho Falls. Within 12 hours, the entire Snake River Valley is inundated.
It looked like a herd of buffalo. You know how you see it on TV where the cloud and everything, and you don't see the buffalo, you just see the cloud of dirt. That's all I saw was just this cloud of dirt coming towards Rexburg. Coming into Sugar, the railroad out here, it just played with it like string. It just twisted it into pretzel shapes. It rolled it up. It wasn't even on the mound that the railroad tracks usually are. It was out in the field. It was just twisted up. Roads were broke down into big ruts. It just took the pavement and just ripped it off. It tore houses to pieces. But the worst thing was probably just all the small little memories that were washed away.
The farm community of Wilford is caught with almost no advance warning. Many residents barely have time to evacuate.
I was involved in the evacuation of the people from the Wilford area, the area that took the brunt of the water. And of course, people being evacuated from an area like that are in a very emotional state. And I think maybe that's one of the things that stayed with me, was the emotion that those people had when they were leaving their homes and their belongings behind to the mercy of that water. They had probably an hour and a half to evacuate that area, perhaps even less.
Now, I wish that I'd taken the baby books, family records and things, but I still didn't comprehend, you know, what was going to be lost. And those are the things that I've wept over as the baby books and pictures of family that cannot be replaced. My jewelry could always be replaced, but those pictures can't. And so I did make a mistake by taking my jewelry boxes, but that's what I did.
The floodwaters will claim 11 lives and $1 billion worth of damage.
When I saw the water up around my house, that's a kind of a funny experience, you know. In an area where floods have never been a threat, to see your house in about 9 or 10 feet of water, I just felt disbelief at first. And then, of course, after it sinks in, you feel an anger. Had nothing in particular, just a real severe anger.
Every place you look up and down the highways, mister, it's just a gravel bed. All of the damn gravel from the damnable dam. First you cry, and then you get a hold of yourself, and then you cry some more. And then you look around and you think, well, maybe stuff isn't so bad as it could have been. I haven't lost any of my family through the ordeal.
After the deluge, the time for renewal.
But everybody worked together to restore the town, our homes, and everybody was helping everybody. It just wasn't, well, this family's gonna work on this house. Busloads of people come in to help, and neighbors were helping neighbors. The whole town grew together because we had experienced it together, and we were gonna show the world that we could rebuild it and start over.
We couldn't run. We had to stay. We have to be able to like ourselves and respect ourselves. We can't run from things. We have to face the music and go ahead and rebuild.
Darrell Grigg
was one of the young men who was fishing on the Teton River when the dam broke. How were you finally rescued, Daniel?
Well, I got pinned to a tree. There was a bunch of logs, and the pressure of the water was holding me to the tree, and I finally squirmed my way up the tree. It took me about 45 minutes to climb up the tree. And then there was a kind of a crotch in the tree, and I went unconscious for about 4 hours, and then I finally started yelling. I couldn't see it this time, because when my lungs got punctured, it just kind of blew me up like a balloon. And so I couldn't open my eyes or anything, and I just started yelling. And there was some people standing.
How is it that your lungs were punctured?
Well, earlier I got crushed between a whole bunch of logs, and it just snapped all my ribs, and I think one of my ribs went into one of my lungs. And then it just blew me up like a balloon every time I breathed.
What happened to the friend that you were fishing with?
He drowned. Got crushed by a bunch of logs, and then we was pretty close too. We used to run around together and ride motorcycles all the time and double dated.
Mr. Paul Jenkins was a field producer at KID TV in Idaho Falls. He shot much of the film of the dam break. From what I understand, there was some controversy about that dam.
Earth-filled dams, of course, people have some reservation about them. The location of the dam, because of the rock material that's located around there, the type of material which they were going to use to construct the dam, caused concern. The ironic thing is that it was built as a flood control project, not as a power generating dam, but rather to stop the early spring runoff that plagued the people in that area all the time.
Do you have any idea how many gallons of water?
A tremendous amount. As I was flying over it after the break, it looked like just a mass of brown with a wall of water heading out. You could watch the animals become disoriented and run into the wall of water and disappear. And I'd flown over that area a good amount of time, and I couldn't identify any landmarks. It was just a mass of brown, just as though someone had taken a brown watercolor and painted over the entire area. And if it weren't for some predominant landmarks, such as the mountains around, I wouldn't have known where it was.
It was impossible for a film camera to record all of the story you're about to see. While the conclusion was captured on film just as it happened, through recreation and simulated film, we have been able to reconstruct the events leading up to that conclusion and what happened to Captain Ogg and the passengers on Flight 943.
October 15th, 1956. Pan American Flight 943 leaves Honolulu for San Francisco. In command, Captain Richard N. Ogg. Midway through the flight, the aircraft climbs from 13,000 to 21,000 feet.
During the climb, and as the engine power was changed, we suddenly became aware of a very loud rising sound from the left side of the airplane. Number one tachometer showed a tremendous increase in the RPM of number one engine, and it was obviously we had a runaway propeller. Of course, the first thing that entered my mind was the presence of the Coast Guard ship not very far from us. It's Ocean Station November, exactly the halfway point between Honolulu and San Francisco.
Now, he must make a crucial decision.
Captain Ogg, what was that decision?
I certainly did consider an immediate landing in the water, because if the propeller had come off from the speed, it might have sliced into the airplane and done some really severe damage then. Well, I decided to try to go forward and make San Francisco. Ocean Station November, this is Flight 943. Ocean Station November, Flight 943 calling.
Coast Guard Station, Ocean November. Flight 943, go ahead. Over.
Ocean Station November, we have a runaway propeller unable to feather it. We might have to see it. Can you give us a continuous beacon? Over.
Roger, Flight 943.
With one engine crippled, the aircraft could probably make it to San Francisco. But if the runaway propeller shakes loose, it could slice into the cabin. While Captain Ogg weighs his options, the number 4 engine suddenly dies.
Ocean Station, November, flight 943. Number 4 engine has failed now. You may have to ditch. Can you assist? So, I turned back toward the ship and told the captain that we were now coming back. We had a serious problem. We'd probably need his assistance for a ditching.
It is just past midnight. The Pontchartrain sends up flares, but Captain Ogg decides to circle the Coast Guard ship until dawn.
After questioning the engineer about the likelihood of the propeller staying on there, his answer was that it would have probably come off by now if it was going to, so I decided to circle the ship and wait for daylight, giving ourselves the advantage of daylight landing, plus using up our fuel to make the airplane far more floatable.
Folks, this is your captain speaking. We know now that a landing at sea by this Coast Guard ship here is inevitable. The ship is completely equipped to help us out in any emergency, and we have aboard here life rafts and all equipment
to make a safe landing at sea. We think we can remain aloft until daylight, however, and we'll probably land shortly after dawn by this ship. In the meantime, please follow the instructions of your cabin personnel.
For 5 long hours, Flight 943 circles Ocean Station, November. The other 2 engines hold.
During our circling, waiting for daylight, I visited the cabin personally, and so did the first officer. And I talked to passengers individually and told them what we were going to do and that we were equipped to take care of this situation. We had no panic and no tendency toward panic on the part of anyone.
The Pontchartrain lays down a strip of foam to help guide the aircraft.
Busy, of course, but I did have time to search my memory for every scrap of information I could gather up that would be of help to us in this landing at sea. The tail of the airplane would come off upon impact, and taking with it about 3 rows of passenger seats. And this is what prompted me to remove the passengers from that part of the airplane.
Captain Ogg tries to calculate the weight of the plane, the landing angle, and the speed to bring him as close as possible to the waiting Coast Guard vessel. Aboard the Pontchartrain, the rescue team springs into action.
Ocean Station, November, Flight 943. Your ship is sure a beautiful sight. We'll make a few practice runs and then we're coming in. We'll let you know when. Over. November 943. 1 minute now to impact. 1 minute to ditch now. There'll be people coming out both wing exits. People coming out the cabin door. There'll be children coming out first. Over.
There is no panic. The passengers follow instructions to the letter. Captain Ogg brings the crippled plane down according to plan. Against incredible odds, there are no casualties.
Well, Captain Ogg, you know, the odds against you were enormous. What do you think made the difference between success and failure?
Well, the presence of a very good crew with me on my airplane and the wonderful capability of the Coast Guard in executing a rescue like that.
Was there a moment when you thought you might lose the plane?
No. I knew what was going to happen after I knew I was committed to land at sea. The passengers were a very fine group. We had no panic. We had a few problems like passengers wondering how to shield their infants during the impact of landing. We rigged up a special deal, put those passengers in the forward seats, behind the bulkhead and piled pillows in front of them in case they lost a grip on the children. I think we had everybody off in 4 minutes.
That's remarkable. It seems to me you did a really great job.
Well,
there were no casualties, were there?
No. No, one lady got wet. She tried to jump from one life raft to another, and she fell in the ocean.
The Civil Aeronautics Board commends the captain and the crew. Its statement, their calm and efficient control of the situation averted what could have been a major air disaster.
Disasters visit us with loss, grief, horror, but they provide us with some of our finest moments. After every disaster, tales of courage, of heroism, of sacrifice make us feel proud to be members of the human race.
Those who survive disasters are forever changed. Some live with fear for the rest of their lives. Some suddenly find God. Others take joy in even the simplest experiences. Those who touch death seem to know more about life than the rest of us.
Disasters defy rules. You can prepare for a hurricane, perhaps, or help fight a fire, or get off a boiling mountain. But a flash flood gives no warning, or a falling airplane, or a madman with a bomb.
Someone once said that all that's necessary for the human race to survive is that everybody agree not to hurt anybody. That's not enough. We must also help.
Disasters are capricious. There is no safe place, and you can't be ready for everything.